Hello, hello. Welcome to this series of concerts on Django l'Impressionniste. This is the first one of the series. So Django l'Impressionniste, or Django the Impressionist, is the way I titled the repertoire of the 17 solo pieces composed and recorded by Django Reinhardt. Today I would like to explore with you a little bit of number one, the first prelude he composed, called Improvisation Number 1. Django was born in 1910, and in 1910 the music that was popular in Paris was Debussy, Ravel, Fauré, Satie, Chausson. These are the composers that influenced Django a lot. He also loved Bach. He loved, of course, Chopin and all that. He was big into the classical music. That's what he had as an example. So Django, being a genius, he immediately absorbed the harmonies of these masters. A harmony is like the grammar of music. It's like chords and how voices move and all that. So some people are better than others naturally at grasping it, and Django is like Mozart or Debussy or Beethoven. He's like the guy that's going to have it right away. So he started manipulating that harmony in his composition and his soloing everywhere. The way he conceived music was with this very specific kind of grammar, classical. So when he played jazz, for example, he always had in mind that way of creating voicings and stuff that came from the classical world. So now, in 1937, when he's 27 years old, they asked him at the end of a session with his band, hey, do you want to improvise a guitar piece, solo guitar piece? He's like, okay. And he played this one piece called Improvisation Number 1 because it's untitled. I personally highly doubt it was improvised in the sense he sat down and played something randomly that he never played before. I think this is something that is quite prepared, quite ready. He probably explored many aspects of this piece. Probably the fact that he had only 3 minutes to record it made it play some sequences of it like that. I bet if he would have had 10 minutes, it would have been a bit longer. But it's just an opinion. But I really doubt this is strictly improvised. This is very clearly composed. So we're going to go through it a little bit. I'm going to try to show you a few things that I think are wonderful. And then I'm going to play it for you completely in the end. So he starts with this very specific thing on the open strings of the guitar. So this is very interesting. He lays out, just like that, the nature of the guitar, the open strings. This is it. This is the nature of the guitar. This is the nature of the tuning, of the usual tuning of the guitar. Of course, there are many ways of tuning, but whatever. It's a funny thing that the strings are ordered like that. E, A, D, G, B, E. And this is what we call a pentatonic. It's actually that, if you put it together. The pentatonic is the root scale for all folk music. Wherever it is, in China, Japan, anywhere in Africa, in India, France, everywhere. The blues, everything is rooted in, all the folk music is rooted in the pentatonic. This is very powerful stuff. The first instrument we found was from 15,000 years ago or something. I think it was called G or something like that. It was a flute, a five-hole flute, some kind of ocarina, and that was a pentatonic. The other scale that we know, that we manipulate usually, is a 7-note scale. So it's the usual major scale. And this scale is the root for all sacred music. Of course, they intertwine. It's music. It's all one thing in the end. but sacred music is mainly based on that major scale, which is the tonality, you know. It's the base for tonality in itself. A funny thing is we have 12 notes, and the combination of the 7 notes of the major scale and the 5 notes on the pentatonic give the 12 note. For example, if we have like a scale of C, it doesn't matter which scale, but let's say scale of C, it's a 7 note scale, we have 5 notes left out, and it's D flat, E flat, G flat, A flat, B flat, which is an E flat minor pentatonic. So they're kind of like mirroring each other. We can see it on the piano. You have like all the white keys. It's a major scale of C, and all the black keys are E minor pentatonic scale. So they all goes together. So the guitar, it tells us something about the nature of the guitar being a folk instrument. So he lays out the nature of the guitar like that. There's also that aspect of proportion of 1, 2, and then the response to that. 1, 2, and a whole. It's like a triangle of some sort. So there is some sort of harmony hidden in that already. Here. So here we're in Debussy already. Or Pink Floyd, a little Pink Floyd. So it starts like that, by laying out the nature of the guitar. And then he goes into the world of what we call the whole tone. The whole tone is a very specific thing. It's not major, not minor. There is a floating aspect to it. We can find it in Voile by Debussy, or like many pieces by Debussy. It's a way of playing some kind of like neutral tonality. It's very mysterious. I remember like noticing that scale at first when I was a kid, watching those cartoons, like I think it was like Tweety or something like that. And it starts in a dark room. It's nighttime. And there is just the light of the moon going through. And then there is like an old, like a grandpa clock. I forgot the name. So there is like that mysterious aspect of the night. You see like everyone is sleeping. There is something dreamlike about it. There is something also that has to do with that clock in that darkness. Something that has to do with time. It's just like there's something very mysterious about the quality of that. And this is where Django is going. This he for sure got from Debussy. So you see, he did like that whole exploration in that world. Something that's hidden in it is a little Spain. When he does that, he's actually oops. So we have this. Okay. There's that little thing here. He continues that sequence. Little A7. So here it's very wonderful. What it does in that he established finally the tonality which is D minor. He finally arrives there. And here the bass. plays those two notes here. It's kind of like a bell ringing somewhere. That's a D minor 7. So, see here, it changes the voicing for a G minor 7 to an A flat augmented. It's part of like that whole tone world. It's almost like a diminished, but he uses the augmented here. So, here the trick is he doesn't play from the root. He doesn't do. He does. So it changes the bass of the chord, which is different than that. So he really insists a lot on the bass. And here he starts a little phrase to go to that A. So in the end he does that. But here what's very important is the bass again. And he ends up on this chord, which it's like, it's funny again, because he doesn't tell us if he's in F or if he's in D minor. So it's always like that. He's like pretty much a thing that he does, he mixes major and minor, and you never really know where you are. It's a trick that was used also by Debussy and Ravel, that sense of tonality that is kind of neutral. It's like a third kind of tonality that's not major, not minor. So now, is in D minor, A7, so here we're in D minor. He loves to do those reharmonization with the same chord moving like that. And like bass and 2 octaves higher like that. See how he lays out the bass explodes, and he leaves that A like a drop in the middle of that bass. He does something very interesting here. So it's a bunch of chromaticism, but still we can feel the structure of the chord, which is an A7. So for you, not musician, an A7 goes to a D minor. And here is on the A7. It's going to go to these anchor points. See, he has the outline of the chord inside. It's very subtle. So we're in D minor. We want to go to G. That's what he does. It's a trick to do that. But what he does here, he's going to go grab that G here on the bass. See? But it's a double trick. Here, what we want to hear is that. But he's going to trick us here. It's going to do a deceptive resolution. That's what we want to hear. That's what he plays. E flat. And here it's called a Napolitan 6. It's a very classical move, you know. A lot of classical music have that move, but that shows like Django's sense of harmony through the classical. And so instead of going to G minor, he changes one note, and suddenly we're on a different chord on the E flat, which creates a sequence: E flat, A to D minor. Instead of so. Same thing, when he does that, we can totally feel the A. This is incredible. What am I doing? That's like the intermediate world between that section and the fast one that's coming. Okay, so here, of course, there's that chromaticism. This is an A. So for an A7, it just plays an A major. See, in classical music, we don't always have to play the sevenths in the chord. We like to keep like just a regular major chord. It just depends on the color we want, you know. This is very classical. It's called a 6 inversion chord, meaning it's a chord with a third in the bass. So we have the A. And this is what Django does. He puts the third in the bass, and it changes the quality of the chord. It's not something we've never heard of and all that, but he pays attention to details. And it's very important because it changes the bass. Then he goes to this sequence here. In reality, if we play the chords from the roots, this is the harmony that we have. Here he does that. See, it's very classical. See? That's the first thing, is the way he reharmonizes everything to have a bass. So the bass is completely rearranged. So he really always think of the bass. He said it himself. He said, I think of music like Bach from the bass. And at the end, this is very interesting, very subtle, you see. There is that little piece of melody that he repeats on 3 various octaves. The first time he does this, see that. The second time, the same thing. So we have that at the octave. Then he goes to the harmonics. The same thing again. So here. So he's in those three different places. It's incredible the way he organized these things. You know, that's why I say, like, I really doubt this is just improvised like that. So now, that's what he does when he arrives here. He plays a D minor, and here, abracadabra. This is like a magic trick. In one chord like that, very subtle, he just modulated to B minor. I know if you're not a musician, doesn't mean much to you, but we are in D minor, which is the key of F, and we're going to B minor, which is the key of D. So we're going from one flat to two sharps. It's like a good modulation, you know. And he does it like so subtly we don't even notice it. It's incredible. What a sense of music. Here he plays this unplayable hard line. This is like the hard one. In like everything Django played, I'm wondering if it's the hardest thing. It's like that. So this line, I'm gonna just play it slow for you to hear like the beauty of it on a slow speed. See? This is full of beautiful things inside. So here, it's very interesting. It goes down with this diminished chord. So same thing. This is very classical. We're in B minor now, but he's gonna play the B minor with the F sharp in the bass. You notice the difference of color between the root of the chord, the B, and the fifths. So it's called a 6/4 inversion. So there is that thing in a sequence of chord where you can have what we call a 1/6/4, the 5, and the 1. So that's what he does here. He doesn't do see? He just so it's a very beautifully done moment. And it's also all that voicing inside is like absolutely crazy. So now, after this moment, it does. Where am I? I'm blanking for a minute. So same thing. He plays a melody and he reharmonizes it with those parallel chords like that. A little pizzicato here. So when he plays that, which is a bit Spanish, I totally hear a cello. Django is actually like thinking orchestral probably. And to me, this whole part really sounds like a cello, like a little pizzicato. Maybe on the violin. And then the cello. Okay? He plays it like that. I prefer to do a little slide because I think it has a little bit more of the spirit of the cello as I hear it, you know? And here again, it doesn't go back to B minor. It goes back with the fifth in the bass again. It does the same thing, the 1, 6, 4, 5, and 1. That creates like, that beautiful classical cadence. When he plays those bends, I don't hear it as a blues thing. I don't hear. I don't hear things like that. I hear more something like a call. Something mystical, you know. And this phrase here, if you cut the end of that phrase and you just keep the top part, Wine Debussy. That's what he does. That's how he finished it. So then, here it's very beautiful. He does like a bass motion again. Da, 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 da. It's very subtle. He plays the chord with 3 notes. Then 2 notes. So then 1. See, that last note is floating all alone. It goes from a full chord, a bass and 3 notes, then a bass and 2 notes, a bass and 2 notes, the bass, and that 1 note floating all alone. This phrase is amazing. So, in classical, in like the nature of minor, the pure nature of minor, when we go up, we have a 6th and a 7, like it's the raised 6th and the raised 7. And when we go down, with a lower 6 and a lower 7. So when he does that, this is what we want to hear. But what he does here, he goes back to the lower 6, so he changes the motion in the middle on the note that tells you it's going to go up, then he goes down. And when he goes up, it's a little bit clearer. And when he goes down with the... it's a bit darker. So he goes from the almost clear, and then he goes back to the dark. That's how he finishes it. So, now I'm going to play the whole thing from beginning to end. Now that you have all these little elements, you know, you pay attention to some of these details inside and stuff. All right, let's do it. And this is it for today. Improvisation 1 by Django Reinhardt, a masterpiece. Incredible composition. Django, pure genius, great master. It's a wonderful gift he gave us with this. Tomorrow is the second concert of this session. I'm going to present Parfum, which is the second piece he recorded that day, and Nagin, which is recorded a bit later. I try to not keep them in chronological order for this series, just like mixing them like with the different vibes and stuff. I try to put them together in a different order. So you will see tomorrow at noon for the French version and at 3 p.m. again for the English version. That's it. Check out my website. And Django Agogo has moved October 6, 7, 8, 2020 in Maplewood and at the Town Hall in New York City. That's like a big news. All right, so now you know everything, and I wish you a great night, and I see you tomorrow. Peace. Bye.